This podcast is produced by the Harwood Productions Podcast Network. To learn more about the network and to find more of our shows, visit us online at www.harwoodpodcast.com.
Hi, it's Cindy Harris. I got an urge for pineapple upside down cake, but I wanted to try and make them into cupcakes. Well, I figured out a way and they turned out great. Let me share it with you. Well, a lot of pineapple upside down cake starts with canned pineapple, but I wanted one that started with fresh pineapple. So what I did is I went to the grocery store, and pineapples are available most of the year round nowadays, and I got one, cut the top off, and then cut it in half. And then I start carving off the outside of the pineapple because you don't really want any of those eyes or anything like that. And then once you get it all nice and cleaned up, I cut it in half again. Then I go through and I cut the core out. Then I take each quarter and I cut it in thirds to make these long spears. And then I take the thirds and cut those in thirds. Because what I'm looking for here is a fairly small diced pineapple. Now, the reason I want this to be a small dice is because when you're talking about something that's going to be the size of a cupcake, if you have too big of a piece, it's not going to work well. It's going to fall off or it's going to be unyieldy when people bite into it. So what I want to do is I want to take that whole pineapple and I want to chop it up so that I end up with 4 cups of diced pineapple. And with a regular size pineapple, it's just about the entire fruit. Now, a traditional pineapple upside down cake also has some kind of brown sugar element to it. So what you're going to do then is you're going to measure out 1 cup of brown sugar, and then you're going to go over to the stove and you're going to use a large saute pan, and you're going to take your 4 cups of diced pineapple and put that on in the pan along with the 1 cup of brown sugar. And then you're going to want to put your heat on medium, and you're going to just want to use a spatula, but it has to be one of the oven proof high heat ones like this one, and you just keep stirring it for a first minute or two, because as you'll notice, as that heat starts up, the brown sugar starts melting and the pineapple starts releasing its juices. Now, the next step here is to put your timer on for about 15 minutes, and you're just going to occasionally go back to your pineapple and give it a little stir, but you can see it's starting to heat up and we're starting to get a little bubbling. That's what we're looking for here. Now, while the pineapple is cooking away, go over to your muffin pan, and I just melted, like 2 tablespoons of butter in the microwave. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my little brush here, and I'm going to brush the insides of the cups and just a little bit on the outside, not a lot, but definitely all around, because we want that cupcakes to release. Now I go back and look and see how this is cooking up. This is just great. This is what we're going for, but it hasn't been 15 minutes yet. Now, as you can see, the pineapple's bubbling around in the background, so I'm going to go ahead and get my batter started. So I'm going to take 1/4 cup of butter, and I'm going to put that in the mixer and start to get it softened. And then instead of white sugar like you would normally put in a cake batter, I'm going to put 3/4 cup of brown sugar. That really gives a nice heaviness to this cake in some way, because I need it to be able to support that pineapple, and if I used a white sugar, it might be too delicate. So I'm going to put the brown sugar in with that butter, and I want to make it almost like a grainy paste like this. So while that's swirling around, I want to go back, and yes, my pineapple's doing nicely. It hasn't been 15 minutes yet, but I do want to give it a little stir. Now to continue on with the batter, I'm going to crack 1 egg into a little bowl, and then I'm going to go ahead and add that in the mixer with the brown sugar and the butter and let that kind of get all mixed together. Then I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla and add that in as well. Then I need to go over and I need to measure out 1 1/4 cups of flour. And I'm going to take and I'm going to put that into a bowl because then that's what I'm going to add some leavening to. And I'm going to get 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And these are going to be my dry ingredients. And what I'm going to do then is going to kind of stir those together to make sure they get all mixed up. Now for the liquid for the cake, I've decided to boost up the pineapple flavor even more, and I'm going with 1/2 cup of pineapple juice. Now I don't want to put the dry ingredients in with the wet yet because I need to deal with my pineapple because the 15-minute timer went off. And you can see it's nice and caramely color, which is what I'm going for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it off the heat and I'm going to use a big slotted spoon and I'm going to spoon the pineapple out of the pan, but I want as much of the juice to stay in the pan as possible. So really take the time to do it. This fruit is really, really hot, so you want to be careful, but just get every little bit of pineapple back into that bowl, but then take your pan and put it right back on the heat. Now, once you get the pan back on the heat, it's going to start bubbling furiously like this, but this is what we want. And so get your spatula, and you're going to start moving this sauce a little bit in the pan, and put your timer on because this is only going to go on for about 4 or 5 minutes. But pretty quickly, you're going to start to see these changes in your sauce. You can see it's just getting thicker and a little more caramely color, and this is what we're looking for. So after about 4 or 5 minutes, it's going to look like this. Really thick, kind of gloppy looking, and that's what we want. So turn off the heat, pull off the pan, get 3 tablespoons of butter and 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. And go ahead and put that into your pan and use your spatula to start working that butter into that caramel. Now, a lot of times when you're making sauces, whether they're sweet or savory, they'll use a little bit of butter at the end. It just makes a huge difference to the sauce. Now the caramel is ready, so we need to get that into our prepared muffin pan. So what I'm going to do is just take, it's about a tablespoon or so, and I'm just going to put a little bit in the bottom of each well, just like this. Now, because this caramel sauce is so good, you want to get every last little drop out of here. So if you filled, put a little bit in each tin and you find you still have more, get your spatula and go back and top each one off just a little bit, because that caramel is so delicious, because it's not just made from sugar, it's made from the pineapple juice as well. Okay, so now what we do is we go back to our little bowl of cooked pineapple, and we're going to go ahead and put a spoonful in each well. Now you'll notice there's a little bit of juice in the bottom of the dish because the pineapple is still going to emit some juices. We don't really want that, so kind of, tip the bowl a little bit so that you're really just getting the fruit, and go ahead and spoon that all into your muffin wells. Okay, so now that we have the bottom part of our upside down cake ready, now we can go ahead and put the wet and the dry together. So put a little bit of flour, a little bit of pineapple juice, a little bit of flour, a little bit of pineapple juice, and just get it mixed up until it just comes together like this. Now, if you notice there's still some ingredients hanging around either on your paddle or in the bowl, give it a scrape down and then have it spin a couple more times, and then it's ready. Now, as always, I like to use my cookie scoop, and I'm using my big cookie scoop for the batter because it portions it out evenly and things will bake evenly. And I just take and put a scoop of batter on top of each well. So we've got this layered thing going on. We have the caramel on the bottom, then we have the cooked pineapple, and now we're putting the batter on the top. Now you're going to want to use all of this batter. This recipe makes 12 cupcakes. So if you go through and give everybody a scoop and you still have a little bit more, go ahead and top off the muffin wells. And then we're going to put these in a 350-degree oven for about 20 minutes. Now, after 20 minutes, the juices are going to be bubbling away and the cake is going to be nice and golden brown like this. So pull it out of the oven, put it on a rack, use a toothpick to check and make sure that it comes out clean and that cake is cooked all the way through. Now, I like to, while it's cooling for that 2 minutes, take a butter knife or an offset spatula and go around the edges of the cupcakes because I want to make sure that they release really easily. So take the time to do that at this point. Now, here's what I do to make the upside down part work. I take a piece of parchment, put that on top, plus one of my baking sheets right on top of everything. Get your oven mitts because this is all still really hot. And I take everything, including the rack and all, and I flip it upside down just like this. Now, I have to be honest with you, the first time I did this, I was really, really nervous. Are these guys going to come out or whatever? But I can be very confident now that if I just take a little knife, get a little leverage on the muffin tin so I can pick it up, and oh, there's one that kind of stuck, but no, he pops out too. And I think because we buttered the pan so well and kind of loosened them up on the edges, these little pineapple upside down cakes came out perfectly. Well, not only do they look great, but they taste amazing. They're so pineapple-y, and the fresh pineapple is so much better than the canned. You'll never go back. So the next time you're at the grocery store and you see a fresh pineapple and you want to give this a try, go to our website. The recipe is there for you. I'll see you next time.